Retweet. That was an opinion of somebody, and that was a retweet. I'll put it out there. People can decide for themselves. I don't take a position. Retweet. That was an opinion of somebody, and that was a retweet. I'll put it out there. People can decide for themselves. I don't take a position. You're not like some.
Months after his alleged meeting with the Burmese executives. So this Burmese, they say, pronounce it Burmese, a real beautiful company. We've ended the war on American energy. We were in war. And we've ended the war on beautiful, clean coal, one of our great natural resources. There was no response. There was no response. There was no response. There was no response. No response. Response. They didn't have one for that. There was no response. They didn't have one for that. Now it's very sad. Very sad.
Force the vote, sure, was a failure.
Seriously, hot sauce. I've been eating a lot of hot sauce, a lot of raw peppers and hot sauce.
Let's go, Brandon. I agree.
In case you don't know, and you haven't seen the latest polls, the American people hold the President of the United States in contempt. They hold this institution in contempt. They hold the Republican Party in contempt. They hold the Democratic Party in contempt. They think that maybe, given all of the crises facing this country, it's about time that there was some bold leadership here and that this institution made some hard choices. Who are you worried about? I'll tell you who I'm worried about. I'm worried about the fact that our workers are seeing a decline in their standard of living. They want to see our industry be rebuilt. That's what they want to see. No more B-2 bombers. No more Star Wars. Let's make the quality products we need. Let's invest in American industry. No, I won't yield.
I don't know who created Pokemon Go, but I'm trying to figure out how we get them to have Pokemon go to the polls.
liked beer. I still like beer. But I did not drink beer to the point of blacking out.
Everybody comes in your grandmother ear. And then they have cans of soup. And they throw the cans of soup. That's better than a brick because you can't throw a brick, it's too heavy. But a can of soup, you can really put some power into that, right? And then when they get caught, they say, no, this is soup for my family. They're so innocent. This is soup for my family. It's incredible. And you have people coming over with bags of soup, big bags of soup, and they lay it on the ground, and the anarchists take it and they start throwing it at our cops, at our police. And if it hits you, that's worse than a brick because it's got force. It's the perfect size. It's like made perfect. And when they get caught, they say, no, this is just soup for my family. And then the media says, this is just soup. These people are very, very innocent. They're innocent people. Months after his alleged meeting with the Burmese executives. So this Burmese, they say, pronounce it Burmese. A real beautiful company.
Force the vote, sure, was a failure.
And I have a simple proposition here. I'm here to ask you for your help. Where I come from, you don't get far unless you ask. My name's Joe Biden. I'm a Democratic candidate for the United States Senate. Look me over. If you'd like to see, help out. If not, vote the other way. Give me a look, though.
Isn't it wonderful to allow protesting? No.
It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day. Every day it is time for us to agree.
Early in the morning, they went to the table with the black robe, the black shield, and they pulled out the vote. Everybody comes in your grandmother ear. $7 million for reef fish management, $25 million to combat Asian carp.
Hello, users, and welcome to another episodic installation. Got a show going on today, folks. It is happening. It is here. It is here. And it is happening, folks. We got a show going on. I am your host, the motherfucking motherfucker. Alright, folks. So, in less than a week, I will be having a very interesting program. So anyway, got a show going on, folks. I would like to start today's program. I would like to begin today's program. I would like to begin today's program by doing something. I want to do something. Whoop, that's the wrong something. Okay, I'm gonna do something. I need something. Okay. All right, folks. Doing something. All right. I'm hosting a show. I've got a show going on. And doing a show. So, got a show. Today I would like to announce that so today I'd like to announce after this show I will be playing some video games on my program for Bodan, who is currently trapped in a Russian invasion. The long-requested Sunder playthrough, map 20, is going to happen at 1 p.m. in approximately 3 hours. So if you want to come help out Bodan, distracting him from the Russian invasion, feel free to watch instead of watching whatever else is on at 1 p.m. So, just announcing that. Hello, DJ Elf. I'm live streaming now, saying what's up to your stream. Are you live streaming right now? Like, right now you're live streaming? Hold up. Oh, shit, you are live streaming. Oh, fuck. Look at this. This motherfucker's live streaming right now. Am I audible on your stream?
Lay this out clear, so
I can't even hear you.
As we can see.
Turn my volume up.
Let's do from the most recent. So by the
can't even hear you, bud. What the hell?
Okay. So.
Where's my stream? Anyway, DJ Elf currently live streaming my stream, or I don't know. I don't know what's happening. All I know is that at 1 p.m. I'm gonna be playing some Doom, and I don't know how long it's gonna take, for me to play the map. So I'll play until either I win or Bodan has to go. So Bodan is directing the program, not this program, but the one after this one. So we got a show, doing a show here today. I've got a lot of things lined up that I want to talk about, and I'm gonna be getting back into. I guess I like the war with Russia and Ukraine is not the only war that's going to be happening here, folks. I'm getting back into a war with Ben Burgess. I would like to announce that Ben and I are now, I'm declaring war on him once again. So we're going to be getting into that. So we'll be getting into that later in the program, because, you know, not so good. We're going to be getting into some other right-wing garbage going on in the United States with American fascists that are drawing up an alliance between American fascists and Russian fascists. So it's going to be pretty interesting. So we're going to check it out. I'm going to be looking at some updates with Ukraine. And, you know, most of them are not good. But, you know, I mean, it's pretty bad up there. Am I worried about the upcoming war on Easter? I am a supporter of the war on Easter. I believe that we need to strike now. While everyone's distracted with Ukraine, we need to be striking on Easter at this point. That's what I think. But anyway, so we got a show going on today, folks. Got a show going on. What if I did the whole show like this? What if I just like made it like a weird face? Like, hello everyone. I should do that for a whole segment. Just like make a weird face. Hi, I'm doing the show. Anyway, drinking some coffee out of a mason jar. Because that's how I roll. Drinking coffee out of a mason jar. All right, folks, so we got a show going on. I'm doing a show. Well, I was doing a show. So doing a show here. Doing a program. Doing a, alright, like, okay. So I got a program here. There's just so many bad takes everywhere. Got a show going on. Am I? I'm not sure. Is this the show? Whoa. Look at this. How did this even happen? Alright, whoa. Dead Air, Dead Air. Dead Air is my favorite campaign in Left 4 Dead. So I'm just throwing that out there. Fucking my goddamn foot. All right, I don't like. My problem is I don't know where to fucking start. Like that's my problem. I have no idea where I even start. So let's start here. You know, gotta rep the team here. Gotta rep the team. Gotta support the team. So, Bernard Sander has released a statement in regards to the Russian invasion of Ukraine. I watched this statement earlier. I think it's very good, and I want to play this because I think it's very important to highlight that there are some American politicians that definitely get this, what's going on, and are focusing on very important parts of what's going on in Ukraine. And so I want to play Bernard's statement here, and then we will discuss, and or I might pause throughout the statement and then also discuss. So it's 5 minutes, though. Let's get in.
Right now, as we speak, invading Russian military forces are moving across Ukraine. We are witnessing the most massive military operation in Europe since World War II. There must be no ambiguity in acknowledging that what the whole world is seeing today is nothing less than a blatant violation of international law and of basic human decency. This war will likely kill thousands of people and create millions of refugees. At a time when the global community is already struggling with the COVID pandemic and climate change,
So I want to pause here to talk about this. Now, again, there's been a lot of info coming out of Russia in regards to COVID metrics. Russia is obviously significantly suppressing their data when it comes to COVID. I've seen, now again, none of it's really hard to get accurate data, let alone, data that, any data, let alone accurate data, I should say. But I've seen some statements from some people that look at the excess death metric, like how many people died from every year from like 2010 to like 2019, and then compare that to 2020, 21, 22, etc., to see how many more people died than usual. And it appears that Russia has been, again, significantly suppressing their COVID data. And so it's probably safe to say that Russia is number one as far as COVID deaths. It's probably safe to say that. But again, it's impossible to really understand just how Florida in the United States is suppressing their COVID data significantly. It's very hard to know how many deaths and cases there are in Florida. It's even harder to know what's going on in Russia. So again, COVID is tearing apart the poor communities all across this planet. And yet, again, these Hitler-esque world superpower leaders like Putin are just deciding, all right, we're going to take this time when people are already suffering to make them suffer even more. It's taking advantage of the fact that we are in a terrible situation. But again, it needs to be understood that almost every country has failed on COVID. It seems that just the theory of government has failed. Like at this point, I would say just the idea that a government structure exists and is capable of preventing pandemics seems to have been thrown out the window. But again, everyone in the world right now is already dealing with enough when it comes to COVID, especially, and also when it comes to climate change. There's these freak storms, especially destroying people like with rising heat in the Middle East and other stuff. A lot of people's livelihoods are being destroyed by climate change and COVID, and now Putin's trying to escalate into a world war. So again, it needs to be understood that this whole thing, not so good. So I'm glad that Bernie is actually pointing this out, because you're not going to see Biden talk about COVID. Biden doesn't give a fuck about COVID. He wants more people to die of COVID, just like Putin does, and just like a lot of these other world leaders do. And again, also, the world leaders want everyone to die from climate change as well. They don't give a fuck. It's all about their little maps and their borders. Oh, what part of the map do I own? Well, you're going to own no parts of the map when you're dead, first of all. Second of all, there's going to be no more map when climate change floods the whole planet. But anyway, let's keep going.
This war could plunge Europe into long-term economic and political instability. Make no mistake about it. The effects of this war will be felt here in the United States and countries throughout the world.
So a lot of people, I'm going to be very clear that I agree with this as well. A lot of people are going like, "Oh, you're an American. Why do you care about Ukraine? It's not going to affect you." In my opinion, I think that is so foolish to say. Now, obviously, again, I am not nearly as affected as people that live in Ukraine, of course, or like Belarus or Poland, or any of these other nations that are close to Russia or Russia, itself. So obviously, the effects of the war do not affect me as much as people that live in these countries. But again, the way that our world is connected, the way that trade works, the way that our global economy is set up, the fact that there's going to be big amounts of war. Why would anyone think Putin would stop at Ukraine? Again, this is part one of a very long plan, probably a near the end of life crisis for Putin. He wants to make Russia great again or something, right? So again, there's no indication that he's going to stop at Ukraine. If he continues to push into especially NATO territory, this is going to get really bad, really quick for a lot of people, especially people all over the world. So again, it needs to be understood that it doesn't affect us right now. We're not, having airstrikes on our homes like people in Ukraine are. But again, the economic fallout from this is probably going to be quite severe. And again, the destabilization as well, just causing a bunch of anxiety for everyone all across the world is also a very palpable thing. So thank you, Bernie, for pointing that out as well.
Russian President Vladimir Putin has justified this war in various ways, including by claiming in a recent speech that Ukraine is not a real country, but simply a part of Russia. Regardless of what revisionist historical argument or flimsy legal pretext Putin may offer, this war is clearly an act of premeditated aggression against Ukraine and its people. This aggression is unacceptable, and the nations of the world must respond vigorously to defend democracy and the rule of law. In my view, it is clear that the United States and our NATO allies made real efforts over the past weeks and months in trying to address Putin's stated security concerns. Tragically, those offers were not reciprocated. As a result, now is the time to maintain unity with our allies and impose severe sanctions on Vladimir Putin and his government. Severe sanctions. These moves should not only isolate the Russian economy, but should include freezing access to the billions of dollars that Putin and his oligarch cronies have stashed in European and American banks.
So again, there's a lot going on with the sanctions. Now again, the way that the global economy is structured is a lot of these countries that have their own currencies, right, will have other currencies in their banks, and they will have their currencies in other banks, so to provide liquidity and stuff for currency transfers and exchanges. So again, the idea here is that we could theoretically, we being the rest of the world, could theoretically freeze all the transaction of rubles in every bank and stuff. But again, the problem with sanctions on the economy is that Russia is an authoritarian government. They are controlled by oligarchs and an authoritarian tyrant. And so it's very, even if you do try to specifically sanction the oligarchs, they'll probably be fine. And they're probably just, what they're going to do is probably just engage in more repressive tactics against the people of Russia as well. It's a very difficult line to figure out what the best response is when it comes to economic sanctions, because again, Russian civilians do not deserve to be hurt because their leader is a crazy motherfucker. That said, it's very difficult to construct a scenario where Russian civilians aren't hurt. Again, Putin is going to be, at the end of the day, able to do whatever he wants to the Russian civilians. We're seeing that there's mass demonstrations and protests in Russia, in Moscow, St. Petersburg, and other cities that are being met with extreme repression. Many thousands of people are being arrested. So, in my view, and again, I'm not here to provide any sort of solutions here. In my view, I would say the most extreme form of sanctions possible seems to be the best route to take. Because the way I see it, Russian civilians are going to be hurt a lot. They're going to be hurt no matter what happens, right? So I don't know. I don't know, like, other than, like, you know, invading Russia and liberating its people, right, which I don't necessarily agree with. Other than that, I don't know what world economic sanctions aren't going to affect the Russian civilians. And again, Russia's controlled by oligarchs. They're controlled by rich people, you know, petro billionaires. The government of Russia is basically just one. It's basically what Putin is trying to do is restore the monarchy, to my understanding. That's kind of what his goals are. And again, how do you engage in that? Well, you just get a lot of money and you just buy out a private military and you basically can do whatever you want. So again, let's just keep going. Bernie's statement, again, so far, very correct.
At a time when he is inflicting enormous suffering and destruction on the world, Putin, one of the wealthiest people on earth, should not be allowed to enjoy the billions he has stolen from the people of Russia.
That's correct.
I would also note that today, even as the Ukrainian people are bravely resisting this aggression, anti-war protests have taken place in 40 different Russian cities.
Now again, shout outs to Bernard for talking about the fact that protests are going on. Again, it's extremely important to know that Russia is... Now, you think protesting in the USA is difficult? I've protested in the USA. I've dealt with state repression in the USA. I've covered it extensively on the show. Russia is a whole different ballgame. There is no pretense of free protest in Russia, like we have in the First Amendment, where people pretend that there's freedom of assembly, but then they try their best to stifle that and fuck around with you. In Russia, they don't even fuck around. They don't care. There's no cat and mouse. There's no game that they play. They just fuck your shit up. That's it. You go out and protest the government, your shit gets fucked up. You're gonna die mysteriously in a prison somewhere. That's it. There is no if, there is no and, etc. And so again, to protest this in Russia is an extreme act of bravery, and it needs to be understood. Because also, imagine this, right? Why would someone risk their life, right, to protest a war in a country that they're not currently living in? Why? It's because they've got nothing to lose. They know that this is wrong. They know that this is unacceptable, and they have nothing to lose, right? Russian people have been massacred financially over the last 30 years of oligarchic rule, and it's just a really bad deal that they've got. So they feel like they've got nothing to lose, and they're going out there, and they're basically committing suicide by cop, engaging in these protests. Who knows where these people are going to be going after they are arrested? Who knows what the conditions they're going to be treated in? Who knows if they're going to be killed? Who knows? There's really just no way to know. And so again, extreme solidarity. I'm going to be getting into some of the protest footage as well very soon, but extreme solidarity to those protesting within Russia itself.
And at least 1,000 Russian citizens have been arrested for opposing the war. Today, I stand in solidarity with these incredibly brave people. In an authoritarian country like Russia, protest is an act of enormous courage. That is why Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny, who has done so much to expose the corruption within the Putin government, sits in prison on trumped-up charges, having survived an assassination attempt. Putin may rule Russia today, but he cannot hide the truth forever. His day will come, hopefully sooner than later. Today, I hope all of us will stand with the Ukrainian people against this war, and with the Russian people who are demonstrating against their corrupt, reckless president who started it. The images of war that we are seeing are painful, and I fear that worse may yet be coming. In the midst of all this horror, one area where American leadership can be very helpful is in providing aid for those refugees fleeing war. The United States must work closely with our international partners in providing humanitarian relief for the Ukrainian people, and we should also commit to accepting more refugees here in our own country.
Now, I hate to be that person here, but I'm going to. This is something that we need to apply, of course, not just to the people of Ukraine, but especially people from the Middle East as well. We need to understand that the United States of America is a bad actor when it comes to a lot of things going on, especially in the Middle East. So everything that Bernie is saying about Ukraine, I agree with 100%. But also, we need to understand that we need to create a society and a culture where we can bring in refugees from all around the world, because if we do create a society and a culture where we just bring in the white refugees, again, that's a little interesting. So I just want to say we need to bring in all refugees in this country. We have more than enough space in the United States of America to bring in millions and millions of people from war destabilized countries, especially. We have an obligation to do so in a lot of the countries that America itself has destabilized. So I want to add that on there too. Again, that's not to say that, U.S. is evil no matter what, obviously. I don't want to be misinterpreted as one of those like Jackson Hinkle freaks. But again, it needs to be understood that the U.S. has caused a lot of problems itself, and we need to also clean up these problems. This is a decent chance for the United States to try to recover its image on the global stage, and I hope that it goes in that direction. I'm very... it's unlikely to occur, but this is a good chance for America to potentially have a redemption tour. That's what I hope for. I want America to be the good guy. I live in America. This is my government. So I'm just throwing that out there. We can start there and maybe hopefully bring things back to a good position of taking in Ukrainian refugees as well.
Many of you are no doubt wondering what you can help do to end this terrible conflict. In my view, the most important thing that we can all do right now is stand in solidarity with the Ukrainian people against this war and with the Russian people who are risking so much to demonstrate against their corrupt, reckless president who started it. Putin and his oligarch friends seek a divided world and the destruction of democracy. Our worldview is different. We want to see robust democracies in every country on earth, including Russia.
And including the United States, just saying, the United States Electoral College gotta go. We need to do a lot of reforms here. We cannot keep we can't pretend like all of our domestic problems are solved just because World War III might be starting. Again, the United States of America is on the brink of a fascist takeover. This is not impossible. We have not, the end of history kind of mind set needs to be dismantled entirely. It's very possible. It's very possible that democracy will die and we will go into thousands of years of empire fighting that happened before in world history. There have been democracies that existed in this planet 3,000, 4,000 years ago. Where are they now? Right? What happened to them? Right? They got fucking dismantled and destroyed. It needs to be understood. We are not at the end of history. We are not at the beginning of the democratic era and the world is changing for the better. At any point, at any time, right, this world can plunge into absolute chaos and imperial empire, real-time strategy video game based stuff. All right, so we cannot pretend, again, and I'm not saying that Bernie is doing that. Obviously, Bernie's talking about Ukraine here. But I want to be very clear that the United States is on the brink of a fascist takeover. It is look at what's going on. I'm going to be talking about fascism in the United States later in this program. It's not great.
We want a world in which people come together to address the enormous problems facing us all. At the end of the day, it will be that common humanity based on the principles of justice that brings us together and enables us to prevail. Thank you very much.
So again, Bernie with a very, very good statement on this. Again, I just got, shout outs to Bernie. I mean, really, better than Biden when it comes to this statement. Now, obviously, Biden is president. Bernie is not. So the context is different. Biden is unable to say probably everything that he's thinking, whereas Bernie is probably a little bit more free to say what's on his mind. That's not to run cover for Biden at all. I'm just saying. But again, Bernie really lays out most of the important bits. We need to accept refugees in this country. We need to provide humanitarian aid. And in my opinion, we need to do something to help Ukrainian people even more than that. I don't know what that is. I don't know how to, we need to create some way to bring people that are in Ukraine out of Ukraine if they need to or want to. Make sure that their families are safe, make sure that they're, they're their money that they can transfer, that they can, have places to stay and, aren't just completely stripped away from everything that they've ever had. There's a lot of things that the United States can do and should do to help the Ukrainian people. And again, we need to be helping people all around the world. We can't just pretend Ukraine is the only area that's engaging in war. There's currently drone strikes going on all across the Middle East as well. And this is a mentality that we can use. This is a moment that I think we can use to shore up Americans to be supporting good policies when it comes to foreign policy. And, maybe we can get some pushback against war. Because again, if everyone in America can be convinced that Russia is bad for doing this, then we all need to be convinced that the United States is bad for drone striking children in Afghanistan. So, again, we got to use this moment to make people really wake up to what's going on. Imperialism is not gone. Again, we have not reached the end of history at all. Imperialism could become the dominant form of how this world functions again. World War II was less than 100 years ago, folks. It is not ancient history. It is very, 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 very recent history. There are people alive right now who were in concentration camps in World War II. So it's very, important to understand there are people alive right now that were in concentration camps in the United States of America. Because again, reminder, the USA also had concentration camps as well. And so we need to be very clear here that, the world is this could be the great unraveling, as people are calling it, or it could be a time where we can basically, all agree, yeah, this whole thing, this whole imperialist nonsense needs to go. This is it. This is the most blatant form, the most blatant act of imperialism we've seen, at least since the Iraq War. But again, it's a very bad deal. And I think that we can use this opportunity to get a lot of Americans on the same page. At least I hope. I hope so. But anyway, Bernie with a very good statement. Goddamn Bernard. Love that, Bernard. Out of all the Bernards, that's one of the best Bernards, folks. I gotta tell you. Very good, Bernard. Very good, very good. Alright, folks, so I'm gonna get into more Ukraine news here, but please give me some moments to all right, I want to talk about this one. This one made the rounds on Twitter as well, and I think it's a good clip. Yeah, I mean, look at Ukraine. Ukraine had the third largest nuclear arsenal in the world. They were like, all right, we'll give up our nukes if y'all, both Russia and the West, if y'all don't fuck with us, we'll give up our nukes, no problem. They give up their nukes, and now look what's happening. Russia's fucking with them, and the West isn't doing shit. Let's just put, say what it is. Ukrainian civilians, right, people, again, this is 30 years ago, 31, this isn't ancient history, right? There's very young people in their 30s, in Ukraine that went from, the Soviet Union to this. They lived through Ukraine giving up their nuclear arsenal, and now they're seeing this is what happens when you give up your nuclear arsenal. You don't think North Korea is paying attention to this? You don't think, other nuclear armed states are paying attention to this? Don't give up your nukes, because if you do, you're going to end up like Ukraine. So again, nuclear weapons, in my opinion, we should be giving every country nuclear weapons. At this point, this is the lesson that I'm learning. And again, this is not a well thought out opinion, so don't hold me to this. But if this is the lesson that we're learning from disarming nuclear, disarming nukes, everyone should have nukes. Give every country 15,000 nuclear weapons, and then maybe, just maybe, things wouldn't be this horrible. So, and I hate to be that person, but this is the lesson that we're learning. This is the lesson that we're learning. You give up your nukes, thousands of your fucking civilians get fucking massacred. So I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you. It's no good. All right, folks. I'm going to play this clip here of a situation that occurred in Ukraine. You may have already seen this, but you know, I think it's newsworthy. There was a Ukrainian like submarine or some naval ship of some kind that was destroyed by Russian forces, and this was their last, you know, moments. And you know, there's subtitles on here, so I'm gonna read those. But again, these people are fucking dead now, so you know, just think about that. But so this is radio chatter between a Russian warship talking to the Ukrainian one. It says, the subtitles say, "This is a Russian warship. I repeat, I suggest you surrender your weapons and capitulate. Otherwise, I will open fire. Do you copy?" Should I tell him to go fuck himself? Just in case. Turns up the volume. Russian warship, go fuck yourself. So, and that's it. That's the clip. They're dead now. To my understanding. So again, you know, I you gotta say, like, that's pretty badass. I mean, like, if that's gonna be, you know, the way you go out, telling a Russian warship to go fuck themselves, that's pretty badass. I mean, that said, I mean, they should, you know, they should capitulate if they want to live. But they obviously chose, otherwise. And so, and they bought a lot of time for, you know, the Ukrainian military to, you know, do other things, you know, so it's not like it was a waste of time. You know, it was a decision that they made. I'm going to sacrifice my life, to own the Russians, and hopefully, you know, my sacrifice will help out other people in the military. And hopefully it will help, civilians. Like, that's the thing with war in this situation, is that any amount of time could theoretically be enough time to turn things around in some capacity, buying time for other people to train, you know, to be armed, to, you know, go where they need to go and all that. It's very important in a war scenario. And, you know, again, rest in power, Ukrainian troops. And Russian warships definitely need to go fuck themselves, for sure. Absolutely. Fuck them in the face, folks. And you know, not in the good way, let me tell you. I did see the old lady with the sunflower seeds. That's another good one. Yeah, Ukraine's not fucking around. Ukraine is not fucking around. And you know, if I were Ukraine, I wouldn't fuck around. Again, I've got a lot of bullshit here, so I'm trying to do my thing. All right, folks. So I've got a couple clips here of like in photos and stuff of Russian protest that I want to talk about. All right, so I have a decent thread here of protest coverage. So there's a lot of protesting going on in the country, the regime, if you will, of Russia. Again, Russia is a very, very authoritarian government. It is not like the United States of America. In the United States of America, at least the government pretends that there's a right to protest. They pretend, right? And again, we see a lot of government repression in this country in regards to protesters. A lot of protesters have been killed in the United States of America, especially we saw that very clearly in front of the whole world. They saw that in 2020. Donald Trump, of course, famously bragged about executing an American citizen that was involved with a protest on national television. So again, the United States is very, very bad when it comes to protesters, but Russia is significantly worse. In Russia, there is no pretense. There is no pretend. Oh yeah, we're gonna protest and everything's gonna be cool. If you protest, if you show dissent, they will fuck you up. You will show up somewhere dead in a ditch somewhere in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. Who knows how the fuck you got there? The only people that know is probably the, Russian people, the military, whatever they do. Russia is famous for extreme repression on protesters, throwing people in prisons with horrible conditions that eventually end up with them dying. It's very, very, very bad. So again, anyone out here doing these protests is an extremely brave individual because they are literally risking their lives. It is a very, very, very high percentage chance that everyone involved in these videos is going to be killed and or is already killed, given the fact that some of these videos are already over a day old. But here we have we have a thread here. Protests are erupting in several Russian cities tonight against Putin's large-scale invasion of Ukraine, along with attempts from police to forcibly suppress them. Here's his hometown. This is Putin's hometown of St. Petersburg. And then there's a whole thread here. And they're all screaming, "No to war." They're marching through the streets. Here's police reacting and, again, bringing people out. And who knows where they're going. Again, there is no pretense of, oh, you're going to be treated fairly in a prison. Oh, there's a right to protest. They are going to jail. They will probably end up being killed. And again, here's in Moscow, we're seeing some large, very large crowds, especially, again, for Russia. Anyone out here participating in these protests is probably going to end up dead. So that's very important to understand. The government of Russia is an authoritarian regime that does not even remotely value protest. It does not remotely value freedom at all. And again, as you can see, the Russian National Guard moving in on throngs of protesters in Moscow. And again, they're just marching people out. And again, it's very likely that they're going to be killed. Very, very likely. So again, please understand that these people are all extremely brave. Again, I want to be very clear. It is very much so not like protesting in the United States of America. In the United States of America, there is a good chance that you will not be killed for protesting. Now, again, that chance is non-zero. You might still be killed for protesting. Look what happened with Michael Ryan. Look what happened with what happened in Kenosha, Wisconsin. So you still might be murdered for no reason senselessly. Look what happened in Portland recently in the United States. But in Russia, again, they don't care. They will kill you, and they don't give a shit. And you can see, again, the St. Petersburg demonstrations, very large numbers. I don't know how to pronounce a lot of these cities, so my apologies for that. But again, lots and lots of people protesting the government of Russia. And again, the repression here is, it's extreme and intense. Even in areas where there's only a couple people are deciding, oh, there's not even strength in numbers. There's only like 20 of us here. There's only like 5 of us here. Well, we're still going to stand up to Putin's evil regime. And again, chances are these people are dead or going to die very soon. And it's very important to understand how tactics work when it comes to surveillance. In the United States, a lot of protesters have been locked up from Twitter videos, social media videos, TikToks, and so forth. A lot of people will get recognized by, like, let's say a backpack that they have or shoes that they have on, and then police will go and arrest them later on. So again, just because people aren't necessarily arrested right now in a lot of these clips, again, the Russian government is going to be studying every single frame of these, of these videos, and they're going to try to find every single one of these people at some point. And so it's very important that these people, again, they might be safe now. They could be safe for a couple months, but at some point, I guarantee you that the Russian government will track them down. And so, again, it is an extreme act of bravery for the Russian people that are protesting. And again, we need to have solidarity with the people out here that are against this war all across the world, especially within the heart of this empire, because they are the ones putting themselves at risk in this instance. And again, Ukrainians and Russians, the civilians, most people in these countries do not want this war. This is a war of Putin's and only Putin's, desire, and that needs to be understood. So, and again, also keep in mind that Russia has not been handling the COVID crisis well at all. And that is something that we really need to understand as well. So that's another aspect to this whole thing, is that, a lot of people in this country have been completely ravaged and destroyed by COVID, by the, economic fallout of COVID. A lot of these people, from what I understand, feel like they have nothing to lose. And that is also something that needs to be understood. Russia is one of the richest countries in the world, especially with the level of wealth concentration that the government has, Putin has, and Putin's oligarchic friends. They are hoarding all the money and leaving the entire population of Russia to starve and die. And if they show any sign of disobedience, they will be killed. And that, again, very brave people out there. Very brave. All right, so I've got some more stuff that I'd like to talk about. I've got a couple of videos from the president of Ukraine. So I've got two videos here that I thought were important to play. This is the president of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, talking about NATO, talking about the response from the West, what he has been doing. And then also I've got another video here as well, talking about how he feels like he is the #1 target, him personally, and he is still staying in Ukraine. He has been offered a safe passage away from Ukraine, but it appears that he is staying with his people as of this moment. And so I want to play these videos because I find them to be important. So let's watch. So again, I'm just going to lower the audio here a little bit, and I'll be reading the subtitles. Today, I have asked 27 European leaders whether Ukraine will be in NATO. I have asked directly. Everyone is afraid. No one answers. But we are not afraid. We are not afraid of anything. We are not afraid to defend our country. We are not afraid of Russia. We are not afraid to talk to Russia. We have been left alone in defending our nation. Who is ready to fight with us? I don't see anybody. Who is ready to give Ukraine a guarantee to join NATO? Everyone is afraid. So, that's an important statement because it's true. Now, whether or not you have critiques of NATO, a lot of critiques of NATO I find to be valuable. But at the end of the day, if Ukraine wants to join NATO, if the people of Ukraine want to join NATO, why not let them join NATO? NATO is not some like fungus that's growing on the wall. At the end of the day, people feel either safe with Russia or they feel safer with NATO. This whole construction here is very bizarre, right? Like, we're building these superpower alliances. But again, if I have the choice to join NATO or Russia, I would choose NATO any time of the day because Russia is an extremely authoritarian government. And again, they are taking Ukraine by force. If NATO wanted Ukraine, would NATO invade Russia or Ukraine and take it by force? I don't think so. It's NATO spearheaded by a genocidal maniac I mean, you could make the argument, right, that some of the presidents that orchestrate NATO are pretty genocidal. I would say probably every president in the United States history is pretty genocidal. That's true. But again, it needs to be understood that the imperial aggression here by Putin is extremely severe, and it's not going to stop with Ukraine. There's no reason. I see absolutely no reason why Putin would do something so destructive and then stop at Ukraine. Okay, so he's going to take over Ukraine and then chill? And then chill. Okay, they're going to take over Ukraine and then everything's good. We're going to go, everything's fine. We're going to sing songs. You don't think they're interested in other post-Soviet states? I mean, Vladimir Putin has explicitly said that he feels like Ukraine is not a country, it is a colony from the West, and that they have overtaken Ukraine from Russia. He feels that Ukraine is still a part of Russia, given that he does not agree with the Soviet Union dissolution, and that he wants to make Russia great again, so to speak. And again, so in my opinion, NATO leaving Ukraine out to dry, it's just running out the clock. Now, again, running out the clock, there might be value in running out the clock. If there's going to be nuclear fallout, and nuclear fallout happens tomorrow versus a year from now, I mean, at least we get to live another year, right? But again, it needs to be understood that Ukrainian people, specifically the president here, are making these statements public because they want to pressure NATO in some capacity to help them, even if it's not directly with NATO forces, even if it's just supplying arms and weapons to, people in Ukraine, and that kind of stuff. Again, it is shocking and it is horrifying that the international community has literally just abandoned Ukraine, and it is just a show to watch on television right now. We're all watching Ukrainian people be massacred by a genocidal freak, and it's entertainment. It's in the entertainment section, and that's very sad. But again, here's another version of this statement, or another part of this or whatever, that I want to talk about here that's also very important. This morning, we are all alone in defending our country. Just like yesterday, the most powerful forces in the world watch from afar. Have yesterday's sanctions persuaded Russia? We see in our skies and feel on the ground that they are not enough. According to the information we have, the enemy has designated me as target number 1. My family as target number 2. They went to destroy Ukraine politically. They want to destroy Ukraine politically by destroying the head of state. So again, the president of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, is again, if he gets killed, what Russia and Putin want to do is install a puppet to make Ukraine a, quote, still independent state. I don't know what that's going to mean for, the other two, quote-unquote, independent republics. Are those going to be independent republics? And then Ukraine is going to be another one, and that's going to be 3 countries? I have no idea, and they're all, of course, going to be Russian puppet countries. Who knows? I don't know. So, this, again, there is no indication at all that Putin would want to stop with Ukraine. If his entire purpose of invading Ukraine is to make Russia great again, there's no reason why they wouldn't do so with the other post-Soviet states. So, it's not good. It's not good. And you can see very clearly that Zelensky is very, very, very much so pushing NATO in the direction of helping out Ukraine more. And again, we'll see how NATO responds. But it's very scary for sure. Very scary. I also want to just underline that the mayor of Kyiv as well is apparently fighting in the war itself. That's another thing. Kyiv, I believe, is the capital of Ukraine, if I am correct. And the mayor of the capital city is taking up arms and fighting in the war. Obviously, political leaders have the opportunity to escape more so than average civilians, but it appears that even the political leaders of Ukraine are standing their ground and doing their best in this scenario, which is it's good to see that. So there you go. The former Ukrainian president is also on the ground. Very interesting. I mean, now we understand. I think it's very clear that during Donald Trump's presidency, him trying to destroy NATO from within, I mean, is there any, like, rational, logical human out there that doesn't think Donald Trump is a Russian asset at this point? Like, you can say that is Donald Trump literally having secret conversations with Putin every day and that's a little... Like, no, I don't think anyone believes that. But the idea that Donald Trump is not a Russian asset to me is fundamentally absurd. I mean, everything that Donald Trump has been doing to destabilize NATO, to destabilize the United States, even if he's not cutting a secret deal with Putin to do all of it for Putin's bidding purposefully, and he's getting paid to do so, even if that's not the case, and it very well might not be, all of his actions have the net result of helping Putin's plans here. So, but also, why would Donald Trump do all this for free? I mean, he's a good businessman, right? He's a good fucking businessman. Why would he be doing all of Putin's bidding for free? So, NATO does have nuclear bombs aimed at Russia, just saying. I mean, yeah, I'm sure they do, for sure. Woo. This is fucking exhausting, folks. I'm just saying, like, yes, I'm coping right now. I'm so sad sitting from my comfortable American city talking about this and not being, personally affected. But it is very exhausting to talk about this. Very, very exhausting. Folks, I want to talk about how the defense, agency, whatever it is, I don't know what it's technically called, of Ukraine, it's just Defense of Ukraine. I don't know, like, what the word is, like, Defense Agency, Defense Ministry, I don't know what it is, but the Defense of Ukraine made an announcement that they are asking their citizens to create Molotov cocktails to fight back against the Russian invasion, which is, I just wanted to highlight this because, as an anarchist, I'm a fan of Molotov cocktails. In Obolon, the enemy DRG, we ask citizens to inform about the movement of equipment. Make Molotov cocktails, neutralize the occupier. Peaceful residents, be careful, do not leave the house. So again, the government of Ukraine is basically telling the citizens, do whatever the fuck you can to fuck these motherfuckers up. And again, as I was saying before, in war, buying time is essential. If you can buy time for other people, even if it's 30 minutes, even if it's an hour, even if it's like 2 minutes, that could potentially create a scenario where you could push the Russian invaders out. Again, I think this is very, very interesting. And again, I'm a Molotov fan. I hope everyone in my chat are Molotov fans. Molotov cocktails, just throw them in. I mean, everyone's got alcohol. Right? In the eastern, portion of Europe, they love vodka. I'm just saying, I love vodka too, from my ancestry in that region. So, make some goddamn Molotovs. So I just wanted to highlight that because I think it's good. I think it's good that they're literally providing recipes, and I think everyone should know how to make a Molotov. I think that is a rite of passage, being, someone who probably is politically to the left. I think it's a rite of passage to learn how to make a Molotov cocktail. So shout outs to the people of Ukraine for fighting back the Russian forces. And it appears that, again, Ukraine is putting up a fight. This is not a one-and-done invasion. And again, it's buying time because every single day that goes by, the Russian invaders, the occupiers, the fascists, are going to be a lot more tired. They're going to be a lot more worn down. And again, it's harder to to launch an offense on a country for an extended period of time than it is to defend your home for an extended period of time. So again, any time that they can buy taking out these tanks and soldiers, imagine being a Russian soldier and the last thing you see is a Molotov flying out of an apartment complex and you get burned alive. I mean, honestly though, you kind of deserve it, let's be real. But again, buying time is crucial in these instances. And so I'm wishing the best for the people of Ukraine, especially ones that are staying behind and fighting, because, they feel like they're doing it for a very good purpose. And again, there's lots of ways you can inflict a lot of damage, even with things you might find lying around the house. So Molotovs, I'm endorsing Molotovs. I mean, I think it's pretty clear that I endorse Molotovs from my previous content, But now, just to be clear, I'm a Molotov endorser. And I'm endorsing the government of Ukraine telling people to create Molotovs. I think that's good. A lot of Russian troops don't want to be there either. It looks like, yeah, they're just following orders. They're just following orders. Where have we heard that before, right? I'm a pacifist. I am a pacifist in principle. But I have no real qualms about using violence against an oppressor. Like, I'd prefer not to. I'm not going to be like, let me just say, remember in the 2020 protests in the United States, there were those people that got the viral videos where they went out to the riot cops like this with their hands up, right? And like were singing peaceful songs and stuff, and the cops just beat the shit out of them and like dragged them and dislocated their shoulders and broke their fucking arms, right? And they were just singing peaceful songs. I'm not going to be that person. Now, I think that person is valuable. I think that the propaganda of pacifism in that context is valuable propaganda, but I'm not going to be that person that walks out there and tries to make an example of myself being peaceful. I'm not going to be that person. I'm going to be a motherfucker that's going to be using Molotov cocktails. If some motherfucker's trying to occupy my country, I'm not going to be the person that walks out with my hands in the air. I'm just saying. And again, that's not to attack those people. I think that it's very noble. But that's not what I fashion myself. Hinkle considers himself a master debater. I'd love to watch you debate him. I've already debated him. That already happened. We had like a 3-hour fucking debate about like, Netflix transgender employees going on strike. And he, again, after my debate with him, he came out as a social conservative and said he doesn't like trans people, which is pretty much what I was getting at in my debate with him. But it was just him like yelling over and over again and me just like laughing at him, and he got very upset, and you can tell he got very upset that I did not take him seriously at all. But I did debate him. This was like in November or something. Look it up, I think. Never thought I would be turning to Andrea and vouch for my daily dose of pro-insurgency guerrilla warfare takes. I mean, I haven't been keeping up with left media. I know there's a lot of people, Sam was in my chat earlier talking about how the Majority Report was not Sam Cedar, but, the user Sam in the chat was talking about how the Majority Report was really bad on the Russia stuff. I know that, of course, like the Jimmy Dore people were really bad on the Russia stuff, like the Hinkles are really bad on the Russia stuff. But I don't know what left media has been talking about this. I've been in my own world, to be honest, and I haven't really been watching much other content. I've been kind of insular for a while, and I know a lot of people have told me that there's been a lot of really bad takes. And so I personally, in the run-up to this, I didn't talk about it because I was not educated enough on the subject. So what I was doing is I was trying to educate myself because I don't want to come out here and say something that's wrong. I don't want to misinform or disinform. And so I didn't really talk about the Russia-Ukraine stuff until Russia invaded the easternmost parts of Ukraine. And in my opinion, that's the moment where I feel like you have to talk about it. But I don't know. I definitely understand the skepticism of the U.S. government, but also I know that Putin is a bad guy. Some people feel like they just have to comment every step of the way. I agree with that. Some people do feel that way, and I do understand. I think there is a value in commenting on every step of the way. I think that there is a value for that in both like on the educational sense, like you're educating yourself and you're practicing, and I think practice is good. But again, this job, so to speak, of being a commentator makes people feel like, they need to have an opinion on everything all the time. And I personally do not have that. I don't have that mindset. I understand how people get that mindset, right? Because you want to make content, right? If the like capitalism, right, you know, is forcing us to make money. And so the way this job works is we want to talk about everything to get the search engine optimization right so that people can find our show talking about any particular subject. And it's like, you know, I get that. I understand that. I fully understand that. But if I am not educated on a subject, I am not going to talk about that. And honestly, like, okay. I don't want to be this person here, but I'm gonna do it.
The Joe Rogan.
So I'm queuing up this little clip here. Now, I want to be very, very clear. I want to be very clear here. Now, a lot of people know that Ben Burgess and I had like a very interesting encounter or series of encounters last year over his opinion on January 6th. And Ben and I had a conversation about this. He came on the show, which I appreciate. And I just want to say, I'm very interested in having another dialogue. If Ben Burgess comes across this video, if someone wants to send Ben Burgess this video, and if we want to have another discussion about this, I'm very interested in having more dialogue about the subject. But I saw some clips of his appearance on the Joe Rogan show, and I am extremely, extremely, extremely disappointed. As a trans person, I know many people might not know this. As a trans person, I take this stuff extremely seriously. Later on in the program, I'm going to be talking about how Steve Bannon, Eric Prince, Marjorie Taylor Greene have been basically calling for a genocide of trans people on their podcasts. Alex Jones has been calling for a genocide of trans people. They openly have been calling for a genocide. Steve Bannon said that he is pro-Putin because Putin wants to kill trans and gay people. We see what's going on in the state of Texas. The state of Texas, the government itself has endorsed the genocide of trans people. We are seeing a genocide. And I'm saying that word over and over and over again because I need you to understand, being a fence sitter on genocide is not okay. It is not a difference of opinion. It is not this. It is not that. I don't care what you are talking about. And so this whole, I haven't seen this whole clip. I just saw a couple minute segments of this. I don't know what he all talks about in this, but I was told that he talks about trans people in a really bad way. I saw a clip. I was not a fan of the small clip. This is a 13-minute video, so there's going to be more here than I am familiar with immediately. And so I might get very upset. I might, I might not. But again, I want to be very clear. I used to respect Ben Burgess. I loved his, his segments on the Michael Brooks show. That's where I first heard of him. I bought his book, his first book. I used to be a fan of him. I don't know why he is, doing these weird things when it comes to January 6th. And I know that he's got a lot of really bad takes in this clip here, because people have shown me other smaller versions of this clip. And I don't know why this is something that Ben Burgess would do. But here he is talking about Dave Chappelle and cancel culture and trans people on the Joe Rogan show.
Political power. They might, influence to a certain extent the way that people.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
Comedians don't and really can't exercise political power. They might, influence to a certain.
Okay, so first of all, we're talking about canceling comedians because that's what his book is about. And so comedians having political power. Celebrities have political power, right? You can measure someone's political power by how many people will listen to them. Joe Rogan, for example, has extremely high amounts of political power. The idea that you're going to say, already we're in the first 8 seconds, the idea that you're going to say that politicians or comedians don't have political power, I mean, I think that that's weird.
To a certain extent, the way that people think about certain things, but nobody who's doing comedy is making decisions, that directly impact people's lives. So
I disagree. When you go on a show that has 12 million subscribers on YouTube, I don't know how many listeners he has on Spotify. When you go on there, right, and say trans people are destroying, quote, real women, Again, you are infecting people with a mind virus that is going to make them flock to far-right politicians that are making the decisions, right? So again, this is why everything is political. Everything is political. If someone can be convinced to hate trans people and then support a anti-trans politician that is going to be doing something, like in Texas, for example, declaring a complete and utter genocide of trans people, that's what the state of Texas has declared, that they want to murder all the trans people in the entire state. They've declared that. Any other interpretation is wrong. Now again, I don't hate Ben Burgess. I don't think he's a bad person. But this is, what he's about to do here, in my opinion, is horrendous, far-right, neo-Nazi propaganda, and it is not acceptable.
So if you were actually trying to do that, like if you're actually trying to affect real change, this doesn't make any sense. What I think it is it's a symptom of how extreme this kind of moralistic approach is.
Now again, we're talking about Dave Chappelle. Dave Chappelle was, quote, canceled and then got 6 more Netflix specials. So his most recent Netflix special, The Closer, was supposed to be his last one. Then he got canceled, quote unquote, and now he's got 6 more specials. He signed a deal with Netflix for 6 more. That's what cancel culture is. So again, this is what they're talking about.
Politics can get, right? That like you're this concerned with like constantly, testing, whether somebody is a good person or a bad person, or they ever said anything that, that might show them to really be a bad person, and nothing can ever just be a bad moment, right? That, that it has to be like, this is the moment where you really revealed the...
So again, if Dave Chappelle would have made these horrible jokes and then people canceled him, so to speak, and he was like, and then he came out and said, you know what, I get it, I didn't really think about it at the time, and I understood, people sent me a lot of articles, I understood that I am engaging in culture that is really hurting a lot of people, and I'm sorry for that. Fine. That would have been great. Dave Chappelle doubled down and said, yeah, the trannies are fucking mad at me. By the way, I got 6 more specials. So again, if someone makes a mistake, if someone does something bad and they apologize, that's amazing. That's what we need to do. And this is why I'm criticizing Ben Burgess again. Because if he comes out here and says, I fucked up on Joe Rogan's show, I shouldn't have done this, I made a really bad point and it really, then that's fine. And I want him to do so, and I want to provide Ben Burgess a platform to do so. So if Ben wants to come on my show and tell me, that he fucked up and wants to give his real opinions on trans people, I would love to give him that opportunity. And I would love for people in my chat to tell him that I'm giving him that opportunity, or if someone else wants to give him that opportunity. But again, this is unacceptable. Like, what he is doing here is unacceptable.
How toxic your soul was or something, rather than just like you said something stupid, because sometimes people say things that are stupid, that's I think that kind of moralism, when it's applied to comedy, I think that's like maybe the most extreme symptom of what I'm talking about, because it's one thing even to get mad at somebody because like of something they wrote like in an editorial, right? That they're telling you like exactly what they think should happen, that like if I write something for Jacobin and, some people get upset about that, okay, at least it's a Jacobin article. I'm literally saying exactly what I think, right? But if you're doing, so that last Dave Chappelle special at Netflix, that people got mad about, and which, by the way, I hadn't even watched, but since I'd written this thing, people kept asking me what I thought, and I finally watched it, and I thought that the way that it was portrayed, as if it were this like just festival of transphobic, hatred, was ridiculous. That in fact, the overall theme.
Ben Burgess, please talk to a trans person about Trans Issues Challenge. Please, for the love of God. Please, 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 for the love of God. If you think Dave Chappelle's, quote, festival of transphobia was no big deal, you are wrong. In his special, he explicitly misgenders his, quote, friend, who is a dead from suicide trans woman. He specifically, the point of the joke is to call her a man. That's the punchline. His joke was, quote, like she's the best father I've ever seen or whatever. The point of the joke, the punchline is lol tranny. That's the punchline. To say that that is not transphobic requires you to be a fucking idiot. And again, if Dave Chappelle were to come out afterward and say, yeah, it was a joke, it was fucked up, but I don't actually hate trans people, I probably shouldn't have made the punchline of my joke, just misgendering them, that was really poor and lazy, and I fucked up. If Dave Chappelle would have done that, great. He didn't do that. He doubled down, went on a cringe tour, and now he's got 6 more fucking specials. Ben Burgess does not think that this is a big deal because he is a cisgender white guy. Let's be honest. He thinks, Oh, I'm not trans. I don't care. And again, note the context of this. There is again, in Texas. Now, I don't know if this was recorded before the announcement in Texas. It might have been. But again, over half the states in this country have been getting bill after bill after bill restricting transgender rights. Transgender murder rates are skyrocketing in this country. Transgender suicide rates are increasing in this country. The context. We have sitting members of Congress like Marjorie Taylor Greene advocating to beat the shit out of transgender people for fun. And Ben Burgess chooses now to make these comments. This is unacceptable. There is no possible interpretation of this that makes Ben Burgess look good. He needs to apologize. Full stop.
The special, as far as those issues go, was about him like moving towards a place of greater understanding, and and
it's also kind of a love letter to his friend that committed suicide for supporting him, was attacked for supporting him.
This is a lie. This is a lie. Nobody, quote, attacked Dave Chappelle's, quote, friend over this. That never happened. If you look at all of her Facebook and Twitter and social media posts from before she killed herself, you will find literally zero. Because I looked, and I found a couple after she killed herself of people complaining, right? But before she killed herself, there were zero, quote, attacks from, quote, her own community. This is a lie. This is a lie, and the effect of this lie is that, oh, Joe Rogan's going to claim, oh, the trans community basically bullied her into suicide, man. It's the trannies' fault. That is a lie. That is a lie. He is lying. If Ben Burgess wrote a book about canceling comedians, right, and is wanting to sound intelligent on this, he should know what the fuck he's talking about. This is a lie that Joe Rogan is saying.
And then she jumped off a fucking building and committed suicide. This is like an homage to this person's life and this long part of it. Like, I worked with Dave during the entire time he was piecing that together, because we started doing shows in Austin like November of 2020. It might have even been earlier than that. And we were working together while he was putting it together. And he was responding to this idea that he was transphobic. And he was saying, like, this is so crazy. Like, this is who I am, and this is about this person who, when I was accused of being transphobic, this person defended me and was dragged by people.
That is not true. This is not true. This, again, is not true. I covered this, but the roommate of the person in question was made a post about the last few days and stuff and how they interpret it. Again, this is not true. The idea that, oh, she was dragged and attacked by her own community is literally fake news. It is bigoted, transphobic propaganda. That's it.
And there's been some talk of whether or not, like, how much of that was creative license, because like people tried to find like what the tweets were.
Yeah.
But how many of them were DMs? Like, we don't know. I mean, I don't think you could dismiss that. Or how many of them?
Oh, so now he's gonna bake my critique in. Oh, people looked into this and found that there were no actual comments of her being dragged. She got dragged. Oh, well, where are the comments? I don't know. They might have been DMs. We don't know. Notice that. Because people have probably told Joe Rogan, yeah, there's no evidence for this. Well, if there's no evidence, then who knows how many of them were DMs? By that same token, who knows how many of them were DMs from transphobic Dave Chappelle fans who are harassing her from that position? If evidence is not required to make a claim, all right. How do we know Dave Chappelle himself didn't DM her and say, lol, tranny, haha? How do we know that? Again, this is disgusting.
Actually knew her personally, but then committed suicide. And like, this is like trying to make, it's the highest form of comedy in a lot of ways, because you're trying to take this like socially sensitive issue.
The highest form of comedy is mocking a dead trans woman for killing herself? That's the highest form of comedy? Now again, Joe Rogan is an out-and-out disgusting, evil, neo-Nazi adjacent scumbag when it comes to trans issues. Honestly, let me fix my statement. A disgusting, evil, neo-Nazi scumbag when it comes to trans issues. He is a piece of human fucking garbage. So, and you know that already. Ben Burgess already knew this. He already knew he was going to be talking about trans issues on Joe Rogan's show. How could he not? He wrote a book about canceling comedians. The biggest story recently was Dave Chappelle, and the biggest problem with that was transphobia. Of course, Ben Burgess knew going into this that he was going to be talking about trans issues. Should he have studied? Maybe he should have reached out to a trans person. Maybe he should have known about this case. He did none of that. What? And the highest form of comedy is harassing a dead trans woman. What?
And extract laughs from it, which is very difficult to do. But in no way was it transphobic. In no way was it hurtful.
The punchline was, lol, you are trans. That's the punchline. Haha, you're a man. That's the punchline. That was the joke. That was the joke. How is that not transphobic? In what world? In what world?
Or cruel or mean.
Well, I mean, actually, he spent a couple minutes in the special explaining why the bathroom laws in North Carolina were cruel.
Yes.
Ben Burgess is now doing defensive propaganda to defend someone's transphobia instead of just saying, yeah, that joke wasn't that good. Like, you can, let's assume, all right, oh yeah, the joke was really bad and in poor taste, but I don't think that necessarily makes him transphobic. Okay, I disagree with that. But at least that's a position, yeah, like the joke was bad, the joke was transphobic, but I think he just fucked up. Okay, that's an interpretation. But instead of having that interpretation, Ben Burgess is like, nope, not transphobic at all. Not transphobic at all. In fact, the whole show was good. In fact, he was pro-trans. What?
And like at the end, like when he's talking about his dead friend, like one of the crucial moments comes when he's describing their like back and forth, you know, when he had her open for him, and
and it's hilarious.
Yeah, which is a hilarious thing. But there is this like really moving part of it, right at the end, where she tells him, like, I want you to recognize that I'm going through a real human experience, and like it really sinks in that. And the idea that watching this would make somebody more transphobic just seems absurd to me.
No, it's not. I am a trans person. Okay, I made videos about Dave Chappelle when it happened. I got hundreds, if not thousands, of comments from Dave Chappelle's fans calling me a tranny, calling me a man in a dress, calling me stupid, accusing me of bullying someone into suicide whom I didn't even know. Thousands of comments on my, you can go look at them. You can go search Dave Chappelle on my channel and go look at the comment sections yourself. So to say that is absurd, that someone would take away from that transphobia, you are wrong. And again, Ben Burgess isn't a trans person. He doesn't know or fucking care. He doesn't know or give a fuck about trans people. This is disgusting. This is, again, neo-Nazi propaganda. He is embracing propaganda that is attacking trans people in this. Ben Burgess, what you are doing is unfucking acceptable. Anyone, the Majority Report, David Feldman, right? Anyone that wants to bring Ben Burgess on their show needs to talk to him about this. Or if he wants to come on my show, Ben Burgess needs to apologize. There's full stop. There is no way I will accept anything less than an apology from him. He needs to understand this because he is parroting neo-Nazi propaganda and it's getting worse.
But what people did, right, is they literally quoted individual sentences that he says in it. Like there's one point in the special where he says, I'm a TERF, right? TERF standing for trans exclusionary, radical. Yeah, and it's like, okay, but literally within like 2 minutes of him saying, I'm on Team TERF, he says, I'm not saying that I don't think trans women are women. It's like, well, hold on, right? Like, exactly. if you take both of those literally, right, those two don't go together. Right. But of course, that's not how comedy works. That's like thinking that like somebody who writes a novel, that like every sentence of the novel is like what they actually personally think is true. Yeah. But I think, and I've got to think that a lot of people.
If Dave Chappelle after the special came out said, yeah, I disagree. I made a bad joke and poor taste. That would have been one thing. Okay. He didn't do that. He doubled down. He mocked more trans people and got 6 more specials.
Who write articles like this must understand that on some level, right? That like this is not how comedy works. But I think that, sometimes it's like bad faith. They're just being dishonest. There's definitely some of that. But like also I think that like sometimes if you get this invested in like making these like moral indictments of people over these culture war battles, then
this is not culture war battles. The murder rates of trans people are skyrocketing. There's legislation in half of this country's states to basically murder trans kids. People are fleeing Texas for their safety because the government of Texas said, if you have a trans kid, you will go to prison. This is not a culture war issue. This is not what's your favorite pizza topping. This is not what's your favorite sports team. This is not what's your favorite video game. Ben is not helping. It's not that he isn't helping Bob Carmody. It's that he is actively hurting. This is disgusting.
You're just not even pausing to think about that. Like, you're just like trying to find evidence. Like, you're just like sifting through it to like find, like, it's like, Freddie DeBoer, the commentator?
Yes. I will say, yes, some people go overboard with their cancel culture garbage. Absolutely. Does that mean that it's okay to mock trans people over and over and over and over and over again as a rich millionaire? No. Yes, there are some people that go overboard. Okay, and? Does that mean all of a sudden that everyone should have a free pass to say whatever the fuck they want?
Okay, so Freddie DeBoer is a writer. He wrote a really good book about the education system called Cult of Smart, and he has this essay from a few years ago called Planet of Cops, where he says that it seems to him that like increasingly everybody in the culture is a cop now, right? What he means by that, and he develops the metaphor. He says things like, oh, there's a new movie that people are getting excited about. But well, give me 2 hours and 500 words, and I'll find you your indictments, right? That it's like that's sort of constantly sifting through things to like find evidence that people have committed some kind of sin or infraction. And I think that like that's how people are approaching that. Like when they
if Dave Chappelle would have apologized, this would not be this way. Again, yes, people go overboard. And then like let's say someone does apologize and make amends, right, for their fucked up joke, and then they still go overboard. Yes, that exists. Those people exist. Does that mean, if someone is criticizing you, you should never apologize? Like, again, I'm going to be very clear. I am not trying to cancel Ben Burgess. I want Ben Burgess to realize why he is wrong and change his position. Ben Burgess went on a platform. Look at this video. 400,000 views in less than 24 hours. 400,000 views in less than 24 hours. Seeing a so-called leftist agree with Joe Rogan on trans people. This is not okay. No one should think that this is okay. I'm being very honest. Everyone that platforms Ben Burgess needs to ask him about this, and Ben Burgess needs to publicly apologize. This is not okay. This is not okay. Ben Burgess should not be going on David Feldman's show and having fun, look, you're so funny and cool. I know you hate trans people and you're pushing conspiracy theories that get them killed, but the Majority Report should not have Ben Burgess on their show. Oh, yes, we care so much about trans people, but we're going to have Ben Burgess on a show to talk about his Joe Rogan appearance where he just promoted transphobic conspiracy theories. That is not okay. He needs to apologize. And if he does apologize, I'm good. I'm fine. I'm not here to cancel Ben Burgess forever. I'm not at all. But when he's going out there and giving Joe Rogan cover for his transphobic conspiracy theories, quote, from the left, he is going on there as a leftist, as a Marxist. He's going on there as a Marxist to agree with Joe Rogan on trans issues. That is not okay. That is not okay at all.
Wrote these articles, about, how, oh my God, did you know that Dave Chappelle said that he was on Team Turf, in that special? Like, look, there's a mission, right? You gotta get those indictments, right? So you just have to sort through all of it until you can find something that, that looks like a smoking gun of evidence. And I think that obviously it's a terrible way to write about anything. But I think what's interesting to me about the example of comedy is that it's sort of the most absurd possible application of doing that. Because, I mean, just to be like simplistic about it for a second, right? Like, if you're saying something in a stand-up special, like generally speaking, not every sentence, but like you're saying it because you think it's funny, right?
Yeah.
Which is just a different thing from saying something because like, here is exactly what I think, right?
It's like the example that we were talking about before the podcast, which I'm not going to do because it's actually in my act now, of that someone put a quote that I said in an article about what a piece of shit I am. I'm like, hey, you got to put the whole quote because there's like a lot more to that, and it's clearly joking, but it's that thing that they do is also because someone is getting a disproportionate and exorbitant amount of attention. And when someone is like a Dave Chappelle or myself who's got a disproportionate amount of attention, there's so many people that want to look at that and go, flaws, holes, but throw rocks. And it's a normal thing to have this sort of reaction to someone who you feel either their take on things isn't valid, or it's not. It doesn't align with your own, or there's a reason why you're morally superior to them because your position is better. You know?
Yeah, no, I think there's a lot of that, and it's also, I mean, it kind of goes back to what we were saying earlier about the BLM protests and the aftermath and all that stuff. Like, if you get somebody, like if I mean, obviously in cases high profile, it's like Dave Chappelle, like Netflix isn't going to dump him because like why would they do that? Like that would just be putting like a lot of money on the.
Well, not only that, but there's no reason to. Right. Here's the thing: it's like if Dave Chappelle was saying all trans people should die, and they're not human. Okay, yeah, get rid of them. Right. Everybody would agree that. Like, you shouldn't put that on your network. But you cannot look at any of the things that he said and rationalize any of these accusations that people have towards him. He is not that guy. He's a lovely guy. If you meet him, he's one of the kindest, nicest, sweetest guys. And that's who he really is.
And it's really
reminder: Dave Chappelle just went to like a council meeting and killed an affordable housing plan for his community. But he's a great guy. He's a great guy. As a Marxist, I love killing affordable housing for my community. Love Dave Chappelle. He's a great guy.
Striking too, because if you remember when all this was going on, there was like a week of the news that was all about how there's going to be this huge walkout of trans employees at Netflix. You remember this?
Yeah, they took it like a lunch break. There was like 5 of them.
Yeah, there were like 5 people. It's not even clear that they all worked at Netflix.
No, that is not true. There were multiple people in multiple offices, in multiple Netflix offices that walked out. It was not 5 people. And again, why are you mocking a protest? You're a leftist Marxist mocking people for protesting and speaking up about their treatment at Netflix. Why are you doing that? Only 5 people protested. Oh, the black people. There's only 5 blacks protesting against police brutality. Who cares? There's only 5 of them. There's only 5 Jews protesting Adolf Hitler's new laws. There's only 5 of them. Whatever. Ignore them.
Most of them didn't, and then the one of them that was there, they found a whole bunch of racist shit that she had put on Twitter, and they're like, hey, and then not even jokes, just like racist stuff. It's like, God.
Does that automatically mean that trans people should be looked down on? Oh, there was a trans person who made a fucked up joke, therefore all trans people are evil.
God damn it. I get what's going on. These are like, they're humans. Humans are flawed. And, just because they said a thing that was incorrect doesn't mean that they're, whatever position they have, they can't have a good perspective on something.
Yeah, and what kills me about that example is at that very moment that was going on, right, that there was this like super hyped up, walkout that like got all this attention. There was like 2 people on their lunch break or whatever. Like at the same time, there was the John Deere strike going on. And that was thousands of people, were out on strike for to get better.
So now Ben Burgess is going to say, oh, transgenders were distracting from the John Deere strike. Huh? Everyone I know was talking about both of those things. What is this? Seriously, I'm asking you this. I hadn't watched this whole clip here yet, but this is horrible. This is horrible. This is neo-Nazi propaganda. That's what this is. This is neo-Nazi propaganda. The trannies are taking up so much time. Who cares about the trannies? The John Deere workers, they're great. Unless they're trans. Then fuck them.
Wages and working conditions.
John Deere the tractors?
Yep. The workers.
Yeah.
If you go,
I believe it, but I mean, I never heard a peep about that.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, right? So like, you compare the scale of the 2 things, and then you compare the scale of the coverage.
Right. One of them is jokes, but it's also jokes from the greatest living comedian. That's part of the problem. It's like and also a guy who you sort of associate with left-wing values and progressive values, and you want him to fall in line. And I think that's part of the blowback is that they want to shame him into falling in line with their ideals. And one of the things he said, like when we talked about the special, and we did a show together, and he did a speech at an arena, and he's like I am not going to comply with the way you want me to think and want me to behave. That's not what I'm doing.
Yeah, and again, like, what's his response going to be realistically? Like, he's just going to
keep talking shit. That's what he's going to do. Right. I mean, it's going to be funnier and funnier.
Right. But like the idea that like saying like he's a terrible person, he's a transphobe, like is going to get him to like see things more from your perspective. In fact, he talks about this in the special, right? That like he has the thing about the line.
I have no problem with disagreeing with Dave Chappelle and having a conversation with him. Anyway, there's another clip that I saw that's not in this one, but I do want to point this out because this is honestly even worse. This is the worst thing that I saw. This is horrible. This is horrible. And you can see, I tweeted about this earlier. You can read my tweet if you'd like, but this is horrible. This is where they go into trans issues. Again, this is horrible. This is neo-Nazi propaganda.
Hormones or whatever. Like, I have absolutely no idea, but again, I think that it's...
Ben Burgess knew he was going to be talking about trans issues on Joe Rogan's show, and he did no research. Why? He doesn't give a fuck about us. He doesn't give a fuck. And he actively is engaging in, quote, culture war battles that are getting us killed. He doesn't give a fuck. If I were going to go on Joe Rogan's show, I would probably study for things that we're more likely to talk about so that I don't look like a fucking idiot. This is disgusting. This is disgusting. And again, honestly, I'm going to be very honest with you. Until he apologizes for this, I don't give a fuck what he has to say. And if I see people like Majority Report or David Feldman give this guy softball interviews and be nice to him, I'm going to be disappointed with them too. I can't take them seriously when it comes to trans issues if they are not going to push back against this. I cannot take any of those people seriously at all on trans issues if they will not push back against their so-called fucking friend when he's engaging in neo-Nazi conspiracy theories against trans people at a moment like this.
This is not like, in terms of things that I'm going to get like mad about, right? You know, on a day-to-day basis, right?
Well, you would if you had a daughter that was competing against that person.
Yeah, maybe.
Someone who had been training their whole life.
Yeah, maybe. If my daughter was, quote, destroyed by a tranny, maybe I'd be upset. Maybe. Huh.
Life to be an elite swimmer and a dedicated massive amount of time, and someone came around that had a massive biological advantage.
Yeah, although of course if
a massive biological advantage. Huh. But it's the trannies that have the biological advantage. Like, for example, what if someone was 5'3" and trained their whole life to be a basketball player? And then it turns out, fuck, there's people with these biological advantages. They're 6'3". Biological advantages. Look, they have biological advantages. What?
if I had a trans daughter, you know, then I'd want to make sure that whatever the rules were going to be fair to her too, which is why, like, again, you know, like what the right sort of exactly where the rules should be set.
Do you think if you had a trans daughter and your trans daughter competed as a male for many, many years and was just sort of mediocre, and then all of a sudden competed as a woman and started dominating, don't you think you'd feel a little
dominating
a bit of guilt?
I mean, I guess it depends how much she was, you know, like how much we're talking about, right? Like, cause like, I think in that,
he's just accepting the propaganda. Ben Burgess went on Joe Rogan's show as a leftist to embrace neo-Nazi propaganda about transgender people.
The meat case, the UPenn thing that you mentioned earlier, if I'm remembering right, like, and maybe you can correct me on this, like what I know about this is like scrolling through Twitter, you know, like, you know, what I saw.
Huh. So you went on Joe Rogan's show and you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. What an ally. What an ally.
But like, I don't think that she even won by that much, did she? Or did she?
Giant amount.
Giant amount? How much did she win by? I thought she was...
Okay, let's find out. She's breaking records. I mean, she's breaking records in multiple meets.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, again...
I mean, this is the thing. It's like there's a video of her literally lapping the other female swimmers.
Hormones or whatever.
Now, again, if Ben Burgess wants to come on my show and publicly apologize for this, I would love that. If Ben Burgess wants to go on the Majority Report and publicly apologize for this, I would love that. If he wants to go on Feldman's show and publicly apologize, I would love that. But everyone needs to know what this guy has done. This is fucked up. This is fucked up. This is fucked up. There is no, but if, this is fucked up and he needs to apologize. Full stop. If he doesn't apologize, as far as I'm concerned, he is no different than Steve Bannon. Because I'm going to play a clip from Steve Bannon next. And to me, honestly, I don't see the difference in their opinions on trans people from Ben Burgess to Steve Bannon. This is fucked up. This is beyond fucked up. This is disgusting. And you know what? Honestly, I'm considering burning this motherfucker's book live on stream. Because the fact that I own a piece of this motherfucker's literature is making me very upset. Fuck this. He needs to apologize. Everyone, in fact, everyone, honestly, what you should do is retweet this post. And tell Ben Burgess to fucking apologize. Ask him to come. Again, I have no problem with having him on my show. I have no problem with having a respectful conversation with him where I tell him how he fucked up and he apologizes. This is unacceptable. We cannot allow this in left-wing spaces. Now, again, call it cancel culture, whatever. I don't give a shit. I don't give a fuck what you want to call it. This is unacceptable. This is unacceptable. So feel free. Just seeing his, like, banner right now. I'm not even... no. Feel free to just tweet at him. Tell him that this is unacceptable. I want Ben Burgess to be a person that is capable of understanding how he fucked up. I want him to be that person. He's retweeting. I can't even. I can't with the, I can't. I just can't. It's horrible. Watching this is horrible. This is horrible. And he's proud of it. Look at it. Look at his profile. Look at it. Look at what he's retweeting. He's proud of it. Good job, retweet. I have an extra 1,300 followers. You should do this and that. Look, he's so proud of his interview. He's talking about Michael Brooks. Wow, that's great. I'm glad. I wonder if Michael Brooks would approve. I don't want to do that, but like, it's just, this is just like, he's proud of it. Like, to him, this is like an achievement. He's upping his gamer score. Yeah, look, I made it on Rogan's show. Talking about left-wing values. Talking about how the trannies are destroying female athletes. And how the trannies bullied someone into suicide. Fuck the trannies. I'm a leftist, by the way. I'm sorry. This is so offensive to me that I can't even, I can't. I'm not even. I can't do it. I can't do it. All right. But I do want to talk about Steve Bannon, and I'll talk about Marjorie Taylor Greene tomorrow. But I just, it's so deeply offensive. I can't see why people would embrace that. I can't do it. All right. I'm going to talk about the Steve Bannon clip. There's so much stuff to discuss. At the end of the day, he just doesn't give a fuck about transgender people. That's that. It's that simple. He doesn't give a fuck about transgender people. There's not even 1% care at all. Not even 1 fucking % that he gives a fuck. Speaking of people that don't give a fuck, Steve Bannon had war criminal Eric Prince on his program to discuss why Vladimir Putin's invasion of Ukraine is a good thing and why American fascists should embrace Vladimir Putin. Let's watch.
And the reason that Putin ain't woke, he is anti-woke.
The Russians, people still know which bathroom to use.
They know how many genders are there in Russia?
2.
Okay, that's all of a sudden that's not they don't have the flags. They don't have the pride flags outside on their.
They don't have boys swimming in girls' college swim meets.
How backward!
It's embarrassing.
How savage! How medieval!
While Steve Bannon is talking about this kind of stuff, this is the context. This is why I'm so mad about Ben Burgess too. This is the context we're living in, being trans in this country.
How medieval. This is why this whole thing's a scam. It's a total and complete scam. And here's the beauty of it.
They're embracing an imperial invasion of another country because the leader wants to kill transgender people. This is what we're dealing with in the United States of America and the rising fascist insurgency in this country. Steve Bannon is not a random nobody. Steve Bannon was an integral part in getting Trump elected in 2016. Steve Bannon is an integral part in what will probably result in the next Trump term. These people are out and about talking about how trans people need to die and that Putin will liberate us from the trannies and the genders. Are you fucking joking? Are you fucking joking? This idea that like, oh, trans people only exist in the West because the West is telling people to be trans. There's trans people in Russia. At least a little while. And then they're fucking locked up and murdered. Do you know what the fuck Russia does to queer people? They fucking torture and murder them and perform experiments on them. You want to know why being trans is considered so new in society? It's because in the 1920s, 30s, and 40s, Adolf Hitler's regime burned books. One of the most populist, locations for trans research and medical research in the world at a time was in Germany. When Adolf Hitler assumed power, he destroyed everything related to the research going on in Germany in regards to trans people, erasing trans people's history. This is why people think trans people are so new. You can look back 5,000, 6,000, 10,000 years and find evidence of transgender people. But people think it's new because Nazis destroyed all that they could in historical evidence of transgender people. And now they're doing it again. They're doing it again. And they want Putin to invade Ukraine to kill the trans and gay people. Would they agree with Putin invading the United States? Because that's what this sounds like. This sounds like these fucking crazy motherfuckers want Putin to invade the US. Why aren't they in jail? I know it's a little weird, but like, this is like, isn't that treason? Like, shouldn't they, like, is anyone gonna hold these motherfuckers accountable at all? It's not good. It's not good, folks. I don't know what else to say, but this is the context that trans people are dealing with in the United States of America and in the world. There's an active genocide campaign of trans people, just like there was in the 1920s and 30s and 40s. There's an active genocide campaign against trans people. We are not at the beginning of it. We are in the active genocide campaign. Look at what's going on in Texas. Look at what's going on in half of the states in this country. Look at what's going on with Russia. These people are trying to get people like me killed. And they're rich. They've got all their fucking money. And then you got people like Ben Burgess going on Joe Rogan endorsing their conspiracy theories. Marjorie Taylor Greene, I'm going to talk about that tomorrow, but I'm sure y'all have seen that. If you haven't, I'm sure other people have covered it. But I will talk about Marjorie Taylor Greene tomorrow. Marjorie Taylor Greene advocating on Alex Jones's program to literally beat the shit out of trans people. Physically beat the shit out of them. A sitting member of Congress is advocating to beat the fucking shit out of transgender people. This is what we're dealing with. So, not good, folks. I am, as the kids would say, triggered right now. So, folks, I am going to be doing a programmatic program of a programmatic variety. NATO to hold a press conference in a few minutes. I'm not going to cover it live. I'm sorry. Keep me posted though, please. But I want to eat and I have a whole itinerary for today. Folks, if you want to support Ukraine, what you can do is watch my stream. I know it sounds silly, but in 65 minutes, I'll be streaming Doom. I'll be streaming the new map of Sunder. Bodan, a resident Ukrainian viewer and fellow abover, has been requesting that I play this new Sunder map for a long time. And because I'm a piece of shit, I haven't done it yet. But I want to make Bodan's life as fun as possible while his country is being invaded. If you want to do so, that would probably make him very happy. So, but he has been requesting me play Sunder for a long time, and I'm going to do that because, I think it's a good... I wanted to do it anyway, so I'm doing this for Bodan. So feel free to watch me play video games. I don't know how long this will take. But it could, I'll play it until Bodan leaves or is captured by the Russian military. So, but that's going to be in 65 minutes. Feel free to watch. If you don't want to, that's fine. But solidarity with Ukraine, folks. This is my form of activism. I'm activating my isms. All right, folks. Thank you all for watching. Sincerely, I want, and I'm going to read your super chat in a second here, Debbie. Sincerely, though, I want everyone to, I don't typically get too triggered on stream. I try to, I try to keep my cool, but I'm very upset about what Ben Burgess has done on the Joe Rogan show. If this were like 6 months ago, the context wouldn't be as bad. It would still be bad. But the context of him going on the show right now to attack trans people while everything going on in Texas is going on, half the country, Marjorie Taylor Greene is advocating for physical violence against trans people. Steve Bannon is advocating to exterminate trans people. The context of this is not okay. And I just want to say, I know a lot of people are very upset with Ben Burgess for a myriad of things, which I agree with. I am no stranger to criticizing Ben Burgess at all. But I want to be very clear that, it's not acceptable in any capacity, and we need to start holding these people accountable. In the same way that I will hold Jimmy Dore accountable or Jackson Hinkle accountable because they claim to be left-wingers and they talk about this fucking disgusting, bigoted piece of fucking garbage nonsense, conspiracy theory shits, talking, about how trans people are stealing attention away from workers, whatever that means. Right? All their conspiracy theories like trans people are destroying women or something. I will hold them accountable in the same way I will hold Ben Burgess accountable. I don't give a fuck what shows he goes on. I don't give a fuck what networks he's a part of. I don't give a fuck about any of that garbage because we need to hold our own accountable. And if someone is claiming the mantle of leftism, then they need to embrace criticism from the left. It's that simple. If someone wants to criticize me from the left, feel free to do so. I have no problem with that. Debbie Kim, $20. My super chat is anti-falalala. I hate Ben Burgess. Someone in chat sarcastically said, that's nuance right there. I could only fit so much in a short space. Could write a 250-page book on how turgid Burgess is. Turgid Burgess. He's the worst. I don't know if he's the worst, but I definitely, I am not a fan right now. I can say as a former fan, I am not a fan at all. And a lot of people criticize me for being too lenient on these people and being too nice to these people when they say these kinds of things. But again, it's unacceptable. Anyone that's going to try to say that what Ben Burgess did on Joe Rogan's show is acceptable, you need to excise them from your groups. They are not a leftist. They don't give a fuck about trans people. They might pretend to in a logical sense. Oh, logically speaking, trans people, blah, blah, blah. But they don't give a fuck about us. They don't give a fuck. And they're actively embracing and endorsing the things that are getting us killed. And he needs to stop. It's just anyone, you need to petition everyone you know to tell him to fuck off. They need to stop. He needs to apologize. And if he apologizes, and if Ben Burgess wants to come on my show, as a trans person, I'm willing to give him a platform to explain himself. Right? If he wants to go on a non-trans person's platform to talk about trans issues again, as long as he apologizes, I'm okay with that. But, again, as a trans person, I'm going to give Ben Burgess the room to be educated. He needs to be educated. He needs to go to a re-education camp. Let's be honest here. And if that camp is my podcast or any other trans person show, doesn't have to be mine. It can be any trans person. He needs to be educated now. Because if he's going to be in these circles going on Joe Rogan's show promoting these conspiracy theories, he is not a left-winger. At the end of the day, what is different between Jackson Hinkle and Ben Burgess? Think about it. What's different between Jimmy Dore and Ben Burgess? At this point. Why? Well, what, like, I'm sincerely, if you want to tell me what the difference is, Ben Burgess is more amenable to criticism or whatever, proof. Perhaps clip that segment pronto so we can send it to Ben. Okay. I'll do that in between my Doom stream. But that means I'm going to turn the show off now, folks. Thank you all for watching. You have a good day. I will see you in an hour playing Sunder. So feel free to join us with Solidarity with Bodan, who is in Ukraine at this moment. And there you go, folks. That's it. That's my show.
And say, I'm not a beta male. I'm not a beta male. You know, you're a beta male.
Beta.
I would say,
beta.
I would say,
beta. 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 Beta.
Say, I'm not a beta male. 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 You know,
beta. People, liberal people.
Running against the worst candidate in the history of presidential politics puts pressure on me. Can you imagine if I lose my whole life? What am I going to do? I'm going to say, I lost to the worst candidate in the history of politics. I'm not going to feel so good. Maybe I'll have to leave the country. I don't know.
8 months after his alleged meeting with the Burmese executives. So this Burmese, they say, pronounce it Burmese. A real beautiful company.
Force the vote, sure, was a failure.
So notice something. I defended him on his bad joke because I have standards and I have principles. So notice something. I defended him on his bad joke because I have standards and I have principles.